So today we'll be riding in Josephine.
Couple quick notes of safety before we get going. Please remain seated. We're going to do 2 laps. Into the first lap, we're going to be stopping at the Hobo Boxcar, talk a little bit about hobos, and talk to you a little bit about history of the museum, programs we got coming up, and a few artifacts around the way here. So don't stick your arms and legs, head, children, anything outside the windows. This car, she is 100 years old this year, and the windows don't stay up like they used to, so just don't do that, okay? Other than that, we're going to get rolling here. Yeah, sure, why not? Right now, it's 4 o'clock, top of the hour. Conductor to engineer, steps clear, platforms clear, patrons proceeded. 106 highball.
106 copies, platforms clear, highball.
Alright, a little history of the museum. We were founded in 1956 by a group of businessmen that wanted to preserve railroad history. At that time, steam was starting to go out of style and they were getting replaced by diesel locomotives, much like the one that's pulling our train today. So they said, hold on, wait a minute. We need to preserve these units for future generations so they can understand and appreciate just how railroads help build this nation, keep us moving forward. So that's what they did. They brought a steam locomotive to here. It was then known as Cook Park. And over the 7 decades that we've been here, we've been able to collect over 80 pieces of rolling stock, as well as about 250,000 artifacts, books, papers, pens, whatever, you name it, we've got it. That's in our archives, library, and holding facilities. This red looking piece of equipment on the side is a Jordan spreader. You'll see the one with the wings right here on the interior side. Jordan spreader is pushed by a locomotive and they use the wings that they come down and they grade along the side of the tracks. It levels out any ballast as well, and in winter time it comes in handy with a pretty decent snow plow. You'll notice there's some fences and work trailers around here. Tomorrow they start construction on expansion of the museum, so over the next year or so, we're going to be expanding the museum, expanding the back end out, and then also this wall here that you see on our side. Follow our Facebook page and our website. We'll kind of give you updates as we go along and let you know what's going on here at the museum. So, at the end of our sidetrack here, we've got a big brown car named car that would be pulled with, pulled up by a passenger train. You would have a lot of your stuff similar to like what you get delivered by FedEx, Amazon, UPS. That type of material would go on your REA car. And when they would come to the depot, they often had a truck, as you can see inside by the Eisenhower carriages. There would be a REA truck, and that would take your goods and deliver it to your doorstep. So, pretty neat. If you haven't gotten a chance already, take a walk up the tower over here. It's 99 steps to the top. You get a wonderful view up and down the Fox River. You get a nice view over towards Lambeau and parts of Green Bay as well. So it's worth the climb. I'm going to definitely top off the rest of the day here. As I mentioned the Fox River, that's what we got right over here. You got a couple people power boating through there. Saw some jet skis earlier. Water looks a little bit choppy, but not too bad. For those of you not familiar with Green Bay area, that's Highway 172 that connects east and west Green Bay. Right here, this big shed is the McCormick Train Pavilion. In there's half a dozen steam locomotives, 4 tracks of rolling stock. Got some diesels in there, and we've got some other really neat pieces. One of my favorite pieces that's in there is this one with 2 big wooden barrels on it. And that big barrel car was a vinegar car, operated by the Richter Vinegar Company out of Manitowoc, Wisconsin. The reason that they're using wood and not metal is that the metal or the steel would often corrode because of the acidity from the vinegar. And so they decided to use wood, and it just kind of absorbs into the wood, and if it rotted out, they would just replace it with another wooden stave. It was more economical and held up a little bit better. Alright, we're going to be coming across to our High Bridge here. High Bridge is where the Dutchman's Creek empties into the Fox River. It's also known as a flying bridge sometimes, so depending how fast we're going. Right now we're cruising at a steady about 7 miles an hour through here. So when we fly over the bridge, we're going to be kind of hovering across it here. So. Alright, once we cross over the bridge here, you're going to notice on the interior side there is little buildings in there. That's Terror on the Fox, Wisconsin's premier haunted house attraction. Do a pretty good job over there. In fact, actually they're revamping it this summer. They're going to be moving a pirate ship in there for Terror on the Fox, and that operates from mid-September till about Halloween through Halloween or the day after they usually operate. So it's interesting. If you're into haunted houses, come on down and check that out. Anybody ever played Monopoly before? There you go. So Monopoly, there's 4 railroads that you can own on Monopoly. Pennsylvania Railroad, B&O, Short Line, and the Reading Railroad. Reading Railroad operated out of East Pennsylvania here. This particular train car, the Josephine, operated on the Reading Railroad. Like I said, she's 100 years old this year. She's got a new coat of paint though, put on by our restoration shop. Last week I believe they put that final coat of paint on. Alright, engineer's gonna blow the horn and ring the bell here a few times. We're coming to an uncontrolled crossing. Just letting anybody that's in vehicles or on foot know that we're coming through. Alright, so like I said, we're coming up to the hobo boxcar. For those of you who might not know what hobos are, those are the folks that would hop freight trains. They didn't buy a passenger ticket, either couldn't afford it or just didn't want to buy one, but they would hop on freight trains and go from one place to another, either looking for work or adventure or something in between. We usually think about the stereotypical 1930s Depression era hobo, but I'm going to tell you that the term hobo goes back several decades before that. Back in the year 1865, at the end of the American Civil War, you got all these soldiers getting out of the service. And sometimes you weren't paid by the Army right away, and sometimes you weren't paid at all, depending what side you're on. So these guys, they would hop these freight trains and they'd be asked, where are you going? And they would say that they're homeward bound. You take the first two letters of homeward, H-O, first two letters of bound, B-O, you got hobo. So right here's our hobo boxcar, and we'll be checking with our engineer once we come to a complete stop. You'll be able to get up and get a better vantage point once we halt up here. Couple notes on some of the other cars. The one right ahead of us is a double-decker bi-level built by American Car and Foundry for the Chicago Northwestern Railway. Used from 1955 to about 1971. Then it was turned over to Chicago Metra, and then used by them until about 1995 when it came to our museum here. It's part of our rolling excursion fleet, meaning that we not only have it on display, but we use it for different events as well. Going to be going over the low bridge here. On the interior side, excuse me, you're going to see some rock formations. Those are what's left of one of the earliest sawmills here in the upper Midwest. Commissioned about 1815. It was used to make lumber for a lot of the early buildings. Most notably Fort Howard, the U.S. Army fort that was over not too far from where the Neville Museum is. It was over by the old Chicago Northwestern Depot. Right now we're going to be going through a section called the Diamond. It's where two train tracks cross over each other. You'll kind of feel it and hear it as we go over this kind of a bumpy area.
That crossing's not used. That crossing's not used.
That crossing is used sometimes. Sometimes we'll have to back equipment out onto the road and turn it around in our switch yard here. So that we do use that. That's mostly us. And then anytime they bring in new stuff, such as that CN 103 locomotive there, they'll bring it in that way. Canadian National helps us out. They drop stuff off, or usually they drop it off at the top of the spur over there, and then we just take one of our locomotives and pull it in. So it gets used periodically, but not not on a day-to-day basis. Right behind the 103, we've got the General Motors Aerotrain. If you haven't already read up on it, there is a great exhibit for the Aerotrain inside the Fuller Exhibit Gallery, right adjacent to the museum store. Also in there is our current yearly exhibit. We have railroad tools and their uses, so feel free to check that out. It's pretty neat. Gives you a little history of tools back in the day, tools now. Believe it or not, a lot of the tools that they used back in the day, they actually still use here. So